Welcome to the 301 Podcast, the interview podcast for the hottest up-and-coming entrepreneurs, artists, and creators. Real, authentic, and inspiring. And here is your host, Marcus Engel. Let's get it started in 301.
Today in the 301 Podcast, we have Mathias Deceuninck here. Mathias is the founder of 8 Hours. And today we're going to have a really interesting conversation about entrepreneurship, about changing careers from corporate law to health and wellness. And we're going to talk about all the hiccups a startup can have. Mathias, welcome to the 301 Podcast.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
If I show you this picture, I think that was somewhere in 2020.
That's correct.
It's also going to be in the screen somehow that you can see it as well. In that kind of like specific period of your life, in that maybe even in that moment, like what went through your head?
Oof. How do I become the next Harvey Specter?
Nice.
That's basically what went through my head. It was a bit of a rude awakening, but yeah, back in those days, my goal was to be the best corporate lawyer I could be. Really
interesting. I mean, how long do you have to study to become a corporate lawyer? I think you had like 2 law degrees.
Yeah, I have a law degree and then an MBA, but both very much targeted towards that corporate law dream. So yeah, 6 years of studying that went, well, not fully, but down the bin, let's say currently. But
yeah, I mean, it's not in a bin. Like it's also experience that you have and that you gain.
Don't get me wrong, I'm happy I did it actually.
How can I imagine like your first, like how does a day in the life of like a corporate lawyer look like? I mean, you're a pretty young guy, right? Like you graduated, like you passed the bar, you're like in there, and then like how can I imagine like the first couple of years? Like how did you feel? How was the feeling for you?
Oof. I mean, it's not as glamorous as Harvey Specter in Suits makes it out to be. Let me tell you that. But it's long days, of course. And don't get me wrong, the work can be interesting. But I was basically in M&A, so merger and acquisitions. So a lot what I did was due diligence, meaning I would look at a certain company and trying to find any legal error in any contract, and that goes from any employment contract up to their corporate structures, etc. Where there's anything, any red flag, so the acquiring company basically would know and kind of could fend off any potential issues in the future. These were pretty big companies, to be honest, so they did their legal homework really well. So let's just say 99% of the time there was nothing to find, but you would still spend about like 20 hours in a dark, at those times, dark file room still with all the contracts going through it. And the big issue was if you missed one, that could be $1 billion error. So obviously as a young buck, you don't want to miss anything. We're long days, and it's a bit of a, I don't necessarily want to say toxic hustle culture for everyone, but there's definitely a culture of, yeah, I sleep 2 hours a night. I'm so tough. I'm a big shot lawyer, kind of all suited up. Why in the end, that might actually work more counterproductive than anything. But anyway.
Yeah. And why did you study law in the first place? Like, what interested you so much about it?
I'm going to be very honest on that one. I think as an 18-year-old, there's so much you could study. And there's so little you know what it actually entails, day to day. So I was obviously looking at all these degrees I could pursue. I did quite well in school. So they're like, yeah, you can do anything you want, basically, right? And then I think I also got a little bit into that whole, my family used to say, hey, you can talk well. You should be a lawyer, like in court. And for some reason, I let that go to my head and was like, well, why not? And then you look at a little bit, I'm going to be honest, then you look at, okay, who's making decent money, what's kind of a good job, right? And I mean, I don't know how you were as an 18-year-old, but for me, the ones that kind of immediately come up are like doctor, lawyer, and like engineer or something like that, right? And doctor, I was like, well, maybe, but then I already kind of figured like doctor, if I study that, it's really, really niche, even more than a lawyer. Engineer, didn't really feel that. And lawyer was like, oh, sounds quite nice, no? So I kind of just started the studies.
Were there certain kind of expectations also from your parents kind of to also make it like in, I mean, it's quite prestigious jobs that you're talking about, right? You're not talking about like a business administration like degree, like it's all like, it's all quite elite. Like, is this kind of from your household as well, a little bit like required? It doesn't have to be bad. It's
no,
something positive.
No, I love my parents dearly, but they're definitely old school kind of vibe, right? Even the things I'm doing these days, let's say, they're still a little bit like, they're only just starting to warm up to the idea.
Yeah.
My dad's a very classic finance bro kind of type of person, let's say, with a very
Patagonia vest.
straight arrow career, let's say, who's now looking at this thing that his son is doing. And funnily enough, my mom still likes to say, yeah, we just don't understand what you're doing right now. So it used to be simpler. I'm like, you didn't know what I did as a lawyer either, but you like the sound of that a little bit better. But again, so I guess to some extent, to be fair, they never actually forced me into anything.
Yeah.
But, it was a bit of an undertone of like, no, that's a good decision.
So they still think you're doing like a career break or sabbatical.
Often my mom would say, when is this expensive hobby of yours gonna take an end? And I'm like, well, let's see.
Nice. And like during your career, I think you worked 2 years in corporate law. When was kind of like the moment where you realized things don't really work out the way you imagined it, or when things maybe also got a little bit like also concerning your health a little bit harder? Was there a specific moment?
Yeah, it's definitely a thing that kind of builds up a little bit. Because I must admit I had a hard time letting go of that as well, because I did have that dream for the full 6 years where it's like, okay, I want to be a lawyer. This is now my kind of not purpose in life, but like somewhat you like working towards that for 6 years, man. Then you get there, you get the big offer, you get the whole shebang basically, and then you're thinking, oh, well, this is it. And the first 3 months you're still like, it's new, like we're getting into this and that. But then the workload starts kind of catching up to you, and also the health bit. I've always been very much into health, movement, performance, whatever you want to call it, kind of. I've always been very exercise focused, like, and I just noticed I also wasn't making any progress on that. I really had to fit it in, like half an hour here, half an hour there. No real programming structure to it, because I just really couldn't. And for me, I mean, this will make sense later on the story, but for me, when my sleep really started like slipping, and like when I was working till 1, 2 a.m. for an extended time on a certain deal or something, I just felt really, really, pardon my French, but shit, like proper shit. Layer on top of that I actually didn't find the work super inspirational for myself, right? And it wasn't as Harvey Specter as I would have thought. That combination of those two made it really hard for me. So I think for me, it was around like the year mark where I'm like, okay, I've sat this through for a year. I also saw, by the way, what my colleagues were doing, let's say the level above me, right? Once you get to like senior associate, whatever, because in a law firm, the end goal is like the partner track, but it's so rigid, as in there's a bit of a meritocracy, but it's also very much stick 3 years in junior associate, then you stick 3 years in associate, then 3 years in senior, you just got to go through the motions, which for me felt like I wasn't really having a direct impact, because you just got to work hard. But it's not like if you work super hard and are super good that all of a sudden you're going to go way faster. It's pretty rigid industry. So all those things, like not feeling that I could have a super direct impact, not feeling like I was actually enjoying the work or getting a lot of inspiration out of it. And just then the sheer sleep kind of held things slipping. I think after a year, I was like, okay, maybe it's not for me. And then, to be honest, it took me another like good 8 months to actually take the step of letting go of that all. But that was more like psychological. I had to let go of like this dream that kind of made sense to everyone, but not to me. And it was really hard to like cover that discrepancy, because obviously everybody's like, you're doing great. Like, what do you mean? You're doing great. You earn great money. Like, definitely also my parents, they did like that career.
Yeah.
But
and I think it also comes from a good place, right? I mean, parents, they just want you to do great in life. Like, I think that a lot of times when people also, like, I mean, there's extremes, But like when parents, most of the time, in the end, they just want you to be happy and like stable, and they want you to afford like a good life. And
of course,
it's really difficult of course, for them also, to see you suffer or like to see you not happy or something like this. In that, like, was it also kind of like a certain self-image that you built up over time about yourself as like the big shot lawyer in the end? And was it then difficult for you to let go kind of this image to also accept, because I think you like graduated from cum laude, you did well in school, you got the job immediately after like graduation, like from just a CV, it looks like the next Harvey Specter, is it then like kind of like also certain kind of like admitting to kind of fail?
Yeah.
Was it hard for you?
100%, like 200%. I think that's a bit what I tried to say when I said like having to let go of this dream that also was kind of tied up with my identity indeed. Because like, I don't know how you are, but it's still, even to this day, really hard for me to separate what I do, because you spend so much time on doing it and on who I am, right? And there's all these philosophical things of how you're gonna be not your job, not this, but I'm also quite a all-in person. So whatever I do, I'll do with a certain intensity, which also comes with the fact that I kind of tie up a bit of my identity, I guess.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's like breaking part of you off and being like, well, discard that, and then there's a hole left, right? So yeah, for sure. I think that was probably, aside from all the very practical, okay, long days, this is really hard, I'm kind of getting really hard, I think that was the hardest part, actually letting go of that piece of me that I thought was an integral part of who I was going to be the coming 40 years. And that big buildup of 6 years of studies, like layering expectations, and going through the steps. Okay, cum laude, summer internships. Okay, big firm, this. And then just like, okay, where do I go from this? Like, what is it? Like, who am I? Almost.
And in that quest, then who am I? Like, you stopped with being a lawyer, you quit your job. How did the month after that look like? Because of course there's then the transition, like later on, that you have a new job, you start 8 hours, but like, I'm really interested in this transition period. Maybe you can take us along a little bit. Like, how did the first month, days, like weeks look like for you in that period?
Yeah, sure. I mean, to be honest, it wasn't the easiest, like, because I was still kind of processing that, right? So a lot of it was kind of going back to essentials and thinking, okay, what do I want also next? But also rebuilding at least the foundation of who I was without this degree, I had the degree, but without the job. But I got really interested right there and then, basically, and I kind of went looking for, okay, what is it? What pieces of the puzzle weren't there that I felt the way I felt? Because I felt lost. I'm not gonna lie, like I felt lost at that point. And finding yourself is a journey that probably never ends. But at that point, I really felt lost. I didn't even have an idea where to look at them on the map, basically. But I started like piecing together, okay, this I really don't want. This I was like maybe happy with. And also that's where the sleep kind of came in. Because for me, that was one of the pillars that when that slipped, the rest just came crumbling down. I think I found a newborn passion kind of for this thing that was health optimization, but especially sleep, because that was the one, I'm not gonna lie, that was the one that slipped the most for me on like 4-hour nights for 2 years, let's say. And I think I got a lot of strength from that as well, because I found something new to kind of dive into a little bit. So I did that, aside from, I'm not gonna lie, all the work as well of like, okay, trying to zen a bit down, wind a bit down, get rid of this super anticipatory expectation of like, okay, what's the next thing? What's this? But just kind of enjoy this for a little bit, because I had saved a bit of money as a lawyer. I could maintain slightly chiller lifestyle. Obviously, I'm not a person to really sit around either, so I wanted something new to kind of bite into, but in a different way. So I was like reconstructing my myself, my expectations, my ethos.
Yeah, and like in that period where, let's say, you had like kind of like an identity crisis, plus maybe paired with like a burnout in a way. Did you go through that period alone, or did you have professional help? Did you have therapy that like kind of helped you also a little bit like changing that?
Yeah. So actually, I did go to therapy for a little bit, which helped me quite a bit. Just, I think therapy, the thing with therapy is it's nothing new. You know this stuff, right? It's no rocket science, but they reframe it in a way that's really, really powerful sometimes. And I think I had 3 sessions and then I kind of clicked. And she even told me on the second one, my therapist was like, "Hey, you don't need to come back anymore." But I was like, what? No, I need to come back, right? And the third one, I was like, "You're right, I don't need to come back anymore." She just like reframed things in a way that I came to understand it. Because I was a bit in the failure mindset a little bit, where it's like, okay, so this wasn't for me. I guess this whole identity I have of myself of a whatever that even means, A-type person or whatever, is not true, because I couldn't like maybe handle this. What is this? And then she kind of mentioned like, okay, A, you gotta chill. B, you just took a big leap and fell quite a bit back. What if you construct in steps, and if you fall back, it's gonna be lower. You're like your baseline is gonna be higher every time you go up, 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 up. And for some reason, she drew that out. I remember that, like physically drew that out on a paper. I was like, huh. This makes sense. This was pre-ChatGPT, which is potentially a great therapist these days. But yeah, so I did do that, and I also went back to like old friends, even my family. Because don't get me wrong, even though they like the idea of me as a lawyer, they've always been super supportive at the core of it. Let's say, right? At the core, they obviously want me happy more than anything else, and they saw that I was dragging me down. So. It's never that they got any backlash on that. So I did have a good safety net, which I'm super grateful for, both professionally and personally.
That's awesome. I think that's super important as well, especially then for your next venture. I think a good safety net and a good environment is super important, because in that period, like you mentioned it a little bit, like you started kind of like getting more and more interested. Like you were always interested, but you kind of started to get more interested into sleep and performance and how it like works together. And then you started basically your first venture, which is also, I think, quite interesting in a period where other people would like feel burned out. They feel like I need to rest, I need to reset. And I find it interesting that almost immediately, I think it was just a couple of months after, you said like, okay, let's go, let's do our first, which also speaks for you and for your drive.
Probably.
And then you started 8 Hours, which is also the company name now, but it was like differently spelled as HRS, and now it's like really 8 Hours, 8 Hours. What was that about?
Yeah, so to be honest, I always had like kind of the idea at that point, at least started developing the idea for what is 8 hours today, but I wanted that to be, let's see if it is my end game, if that makes sense. And I first wanted to kind of hone in on my skills. I knew I wanted to do something with this sleep and kind of make it cool again, if that makes sense. Like in a way where, look, most people aren't really conscious about their sleep, right? Why would you? You're essentially 8 hours unconscious. Not completely true, but like, you know what I mean, right? Knocked out. And that was something I wanted to do something with, and we can get into that later, but the supplement industry, if you want to do it right, it takes a lot of time to develop. So what I first wanted to do is something a bit lower threshold. When I was like 16, I had like my own little e-com store at times. Like I always played around with ideas. I think the entrepreneurship has always kind of been there a little bit. So I started this indie company called, rather confusingly, also 8 Hours, but let's go with it then. It was more at that point like silk eye masks, silk pillowcases, because I actually noticed a lot of benefits for my hair and my skin on silk pillowcase. And I was like, oh, this is a cool product. There's not that much in the market yet. I can market it in a way that's fresh. And we started that. Actually, at that point, started out with my then girlfriend, by the way, which brings another set of challenges, but that's a different conversation. And that really helped me understand 2 things mainly. One, like I don't think any entrepreneur starts and goes like, okay, today I'm going to invest $500,000 into a company. Like you start with, which is super scary at that point. I'm going to do a first purchase order, 1,000 euros. 1,000 euros. Oh my God, I'm scared, right? But you kind of build up your risk tolerance on that type of way. So it kind of made me understand the whole process of, okay, here's a product, here's a brand, here's how to get it to a customer. And that's kind of a company, right? So that's the first thing that helped me understand. And then secondly, it just got me into that sleep space, which I always wanted to be in. And yeah, it was a really cool thing for me to kind of bite into after that. I don't want to call it a legal fiasco, but like after my other career, right? So I started doing that. It never, to be very honest, it never amounted to any big revenue numbers or anything, but it kind of was enough to keep it ticking over, and I really enjoyed it.
What was in that period kind of like your first success or kind of like learning? I mean, you said, okay, it was nothing big, like or nothing like super successful, but were there already like some first learnings that you're like using today, maybe like what you learned there?
Yeah, you've got the super practical stuff, right? Like, I think the one thing it made me understand is that in the end, I mean, I'm going to oversimplify this, but a company is get a product that solves an issue that's not just in your head, find the right customer, get it in front of that customer, make sure they can buy it easily, it gets to them easily, and if there's any issue, solve it. And then make sure your books are kind of ran correctly. But in those, like, that's one long sentence, but like what you find there is product development, marketing, get it in front of them, like website optimization, make sure they can buy it, get it to them, fulfillment, right? And then if there's an issue, solve it, customer service, and make sure your books are right. Financial accounting, basically accounting. And I kind of came to understand every step, which obviously is a framework that you can apply to any company, whatever you're selling. I also came to understand the power of brands, to be honest, because the reason you will pay X amount more for a nice black t-shirt that is of a certain brand than of, I don't know, H&M or Zara or whatever is purely the power of brand. People want to feel something. They want to feel part of something. So I think that was really important. And it also laid the foundations for me a little bit, not to the extent we're doing now, but with kind of behind the brand stuff, right? So I started documenting to my friends and stuff like, hey, I'm doing this and we're testing this. We also had sleep teas, for example. And there's like these time lapses of us just like making tea blends in the kitchen, just like pouring it in pots and stuff. And people found that super interesting. And I kind of got an ink for like this is also something that's like working. It's also marketing, which obviously we kind of apply to a way bigger scale these days.
Yeah.
That was my iPhone in the corner. Now it's a bit more thought out. But yeah, I think those two things. Yeah.
Awesome. You then started to work, like you kind of stopped your first 8-hour company after a while, or you put it on hold, let's say.
On the back burner, basically.
Yeah. You then started to work for Amazon. You started to get a full-time job, but this kind of sleep topic never kind of left your side. When was the idea of like creating a supplement? When did this like start for you? Like, can you still remember like, oh, maybe I need to do a supplement? Because I mean, next to other products and everything that you can sell, I think supplement is like a different like level of, you need like approvals, it needs to be super safe, you need lab work, you need like a lot of costs. Like, when did you have this crazy idea, you know what, next to my job, I am gonna do like this very big and elaborate company on the side?
Yeah. By the way, I want to push back on that, because the funny part is, to actually launch supplements, you don't need that many approvals, which is the reason why I wanted to change it quite a bit. Because I started diving into supplements myself. I was looking for something that could help me, because because my circadian rhythm was so ruined from working 3 a.m. here, then 12, then 1 a.m., then whatever, like, right? I had sleep issues. Like, I really had a bit of insomnia. So I started looking for things for myself. And then I kind of noticed, wait, but all this stuff, you've got all this melatonin stuff, which is really messing kind of with your hormones. You've got a lot of stuff that's not tested. Like, what's even in this? I don't know. Where is it coming from? What is it? Isn't that? And I think that is where the first seeds started to become apparent for me. It's like, oh, wait, what? Because I had the same idea as you. I was like, surely if I buy something in Holland & Barrett, or if I buy something online, is it super regulated? I was an ex-lawyer. And then I started looking into the European directives and stuff. And yeah, okay, there's some stuff you can't sell, but essentially, if you whip up a supplement in your kitchen, nobody's checking, like
Right.
literally. So the idea started really soon because I started together actually with two friends at that time. We started testing. We got like Aura rings and Whoops, and we got a bit like Brian Johnson biohacker with it. So we were testing all this stuff, all these different supplements, and we couldn't quite find something that actually had no dependency, like hit the nail on the head really on what we wanted, like not a magic pill, but more of an insurance policy for us stuff, something that could support us or natural kind of sleep cycles, etc. Plus the branding was very often off. I mean, we can talk about that later, but that is kind of about 3 years ago, something like that, 2.5 years. But then it really took a while to go from that to actual inception. So we're fast forwarding a little bit to that. I think the first actual call I had with like a supplier to see whether we could make something is the end of 22. And the supplier left me out of the room, just saying, because he was like, "And what's your order volume?" I was like, "Let's start with 500." He was like, "MOQ is 500,000." I was like, "Oh,
Okay.
that might be interesting." But yeah, so that's kind of where it started. And then obviously there's a lot of stuff that are in between that, but I don't want to go on a huge tantrum just yet. So
okay, so basically it takes you like a little bit more than a year to like fine tune like the supplement, like find suppliers.
Yes.
Before we go on, because I think maybe it's good for a context, like what does 8-hour supplement do?
Yeah, sure. That's a good question. Maybe before we dive in, again, it is not a magic pill. That's the thing. It won't knock you out. It will not make you sleep 8 hours and 4 hours. It will not do all of those things, because that is not what a supplement is supposed to do. Think about it. The name, a supplement. It's not a substitute, right? So we're really big on that. Because on the product, I'll start there and then I layer it a bit with the company, because we're a bit more than just a supplement, let's say. But the product is simply 5 natural compounds that are specifically designed to give your to help you maintain your natural sleep cycles. I know how I see you have a Whoop, right? Like, so you probably know what deep sleep, REM sleep, that type of stuff is. It will support that, and it will help you wind down a bit. There's L-theanine in it, will calm your mind a bit, all that stuff. Again, it's not something that will knock you out. That's just not what we're in the business of. It is that insurance policy that will increase your deep sleep, for example, for most people with like 10-15%. And believe me, that might be 20 minutes, but you feel that. That's it. But nothing works if you don't work. And that is exactly what we are as a company as well. We've got our supplement, which is a great baseline, a great foundation, but then we do a lot around, I guess what also partly why I'm here, right, about knowledge. We have a community, we have sleep coaches that help people actually set call it skills with your pills, right? Like the habits that you need. And I think that is it. And that's also our target customer. We have the people in our memberships. They have the right habits, most of them. They're just looking for something that can give them that 5-10 extra %. And they understand that incremental gain, that compounding is huge. So it's an all natural supplement. No dependencies, triple lab tested. We have it with the doping authorities as well. We've got Olympic athletes on it. It's basically the best you can get on the market, but we don't make crazy claims. Like, we really try to not, like, it's not about, as I said, sleeping 8 hours and 4 hours and all that stuff. That's just not what we're in.
Yeah. And I think that's probably also the difficulty, because I think other brands make those claims, right, in this market. And I think the expectation from like a supplement perspective or from a like health perspective is just from the user so high, right? So I don't know. I remember also for me, I think when I bought AG1, like I think it was big in the whole podcast game. And first of all, the disgusting taste. I mean, everyone experiences different, but for me, it's really disgusting. So it's almost every morning this kind of like almost puke experience. But also there, like you use it, and then like the first weeks you have like this placebo effect where you think like, wow, that's really crazy. But then in the end, like, I don't know, probably for some people it does something. But then when you dive deeper into the product, you figure out that AG1 is actually one of the, not the worst, but like not the best green like supplement that you can take, right? But then, they just have like really good branding and really good marketing, and I think they package it really well that it gets like kind of nice. But just a side story. Like in that time, because what I find really interesting, like you founded that company, like you go through all the lab testing. It's probably a super crazy tantrum of getting it tested.
Yes.
It doesn't work. The suppliers go maybe like quitting the contracts, not supplying the right quantity, all those kind of things.
All of that.
But what I find most significant, and you talk very openly about it as well, is like you found this company next to your work, so it's super stressful. You found it together with a co-founder, and I think maybe the biggest hit in all this kind of like period is your co-founder decides to leave.
Yeah.
Like, what does this do like to you as in kind of like also the progression of the founding this company?
Yeah, that's an interesting one. Even two co-founders actually. Originally we were three. I'll take you through that a little bit. So originally we were three, and two of my good friends that actually met at a run club. So we were all kind of in the same space. I already had the product, to be honest. Like I had that locked in. I had the supplier. After all the things you basically described, indeed, I went through that for like a year, and then we got it all locked in. We got this confidence from the supplier. We had all the lab tests locked in, but then the issue that I still had is that a lot of the brands are either clinically clean, right, or they're like childishly colorful, like gummies and stuff, and it just didn't vibe with me as a person. I wanted something that looked really, really nice and appealing. I wanted to make sleep cool again, right? So I kind of looked for a brand that was rooted in science, but wrapped in emotion, if that makes sense, and like proven in practice. So I needed that wrapped in emotion part. So I got my two co-founders on. They were both designers by trade, basically. Very different people, though. We all were. And the only thing that we kind of got was this like crazy idea of like, oh, maybe we can do this. All of us had a full-time job, by the way, so that was great. But the contrast made sense to us because we're a company built on a contrast as well. That's the whole thing. Our tagline is sleep to move, right? It's not about necessarily just sleep. It's about what it allows you to do. Now, in any case, we kind of started building this brand voice, etc. And then one of my co-founders left quite early, actually 2 weeks after launch. Perfect. But that was more because of the job, to be honest, because he had a lot on his plate there. And we just noticed that it started eating into our own sleep, paradoxically, into our own health and our own balance. So we're all really good friends still, but we decided to part ways right there and then. Still really grateful for him. That already was hard, but then we still had two of us left, so we kind of, okay, let's push on, right? Because we had enough confidence from the launch and from people sticking on our subscription, coming in, etc., that we're like, okay, let's really breathe life into this. That already hit hard once, but then back in, I think it was July, August of last year, second co-founder left as well. Similar story, conflicting interest kind of on wanting what he wanted to do with his design business, what we wanted to do with this thing that now became all-encompassing. Basically, 8 hours was everywhere. Like, okay, we have to do something with this. I'm not gonna lie, that hit me really, really hard. Because, again, on the one hand, obviously, you're losing talent. That is hard. But I could have outsourced design, basically. But the thing that hits the hardest is, as you might appreciate, it's quite a lonely journey, this whole entrepreneurship thing. And you've got these moments where you push really hard and it's all nice. And then you want to relax a bit. And then Sundays get really, really quiet because you have no more friends left.
Yeah.
Like, I'm exaggerating, but you get the point. And you get a little bit that, at least for me, I derived quite a lot of strength from that us versus the world kind of thing that I had with my co-founder. And it was the closest thing to family or like a relationship I kind of had, right? So not to get too personal, but and then for that to evaporate as well, it felt like quite a bit setback, because then again, you're alone again at the end. I had obviously a team. I had my right hand who was in Barcelona at that time, like, but it's still different because I was here alone, kind of trying to build this vision. And it feels like you're sat back quite a bit. And not only can't you take a real step back because you've got the company and it's actually growing and you actually got to maintain it, but it's it's like a reframe, and it took me a while to swallow that bitter pill and kind of get on with it. But again, I think it's for the better. Obviously now I have another co-founder, which is very interesting, and let's see how it goes. Quite fresh, but hard one.
Did it ever occur to you that because like the first co-founder leaves, you know, like you kind of say, oh, okay, because he wants to pursue his own dream. Second co-founder leaves, he also wants to pursue his own dream. But in this period, like, did you also think kind of like, is it me, or is it like, is my idea too crazy? Am I, you know, like, were you also in that moments, because of course they're very hard, thinking about, okay, maybe it's me, maybe I'm not a good co-founder, and also maybe I should just stop this whole thing altogether because maybe it's too crazy?
Yeah, like I've never, like, there's this difference, right, between toying with the idea and actually wanting to execute it. I've never had the actual idea where like, okay, I'm actually going to stop this, like never. But I can tell you, even now, every 2 weeks, I'm like, why am I doing this? Like, I could go back to a nice corporate job and all that stuff. And yes, I definitely had that idea as well after second co-founder. And I've had really long chats with both of my co-founders, my former ones, where I was like, okay, is this anything about me? Like, is it that? But in the end, everybody, like, we're still really good friends. So I hope it's not me, right? And it's just a different, people are different, right? And there's even if the vision ties us together, there was kind of a discrepancy on both payouts, how you're, and I think you'll also know not everyone's necessarily made for entrepreneurship. That's just not the case. And that's not even a good or a bad thing, because I think it gets glorified these days. And Lord, do I sometimes miss my 9 to 6 or something at Amazon, slamming my laptop on Friday and not thinking about it anymore. I think that's a really solid career path. Let me tell you that. Like, I think that's a really, really solid career path. The things you got to go through as an entrepreneur are not fun. And if you think it's for the big payouts, please do something else. Go be a lawyer. That was way better for the payout. But yeah, again, I think now I found someone that has the same, call it actionable delusion like myself. It's kind of the word we toy with, right? We are delusional. That's just the full sense of it. I know I am. But I've always had issues with people trying to make that a negative thing. If delusional is actionable, meaning if you can still figure out ways to close the gap to that delusional dream, that's a great path. Like, that is exactly how you end up changing the world. Because again, it's only the ones that think they can that will do that.
Yeah.
Not saying I'll change the world, but hey, a boy can try.
But I think like some sort of kind of like you call it actionable delusion, but like in general delusion, I think it's in any entrepreneur's journey, because I think you have to believe in something before everyone else does, right? And I think to bring, like, to find the strength to bring, in this case, your product from an idea through the lab test, through the suppliers, through two founders stepping down to actually sell something and sell 10 years of product is like a huge like achievement already. So that's already really nice. But for yourself, was there like a moment where you, like a moment in time where you really sat in front of your laptop, I don't know, checked your Shopify dashboard or whatever, and thought like, hey, I'm really sitting on something. I think I can really make this a success?
I've definitely had moments like that. More so than, to be honest, more so than the Shopify dashboard, it's when we do, because we also have quite a big community. We do events with them, stuff like that. I think that for me makes it more real, because I'm not just looking at a number on a dashboard, right? Which is super volatile anyway. But when I see people, when I speak to people as well, I get moments like that. I'm also not going to lie. It's one of the things I still struggle with, is a bit of the hedonistic treadmill. Definitely, if you're talking like Shopify dashboard, you'll hit a really good day, let's say. And unfortunately, for some reason, my brain goes, yeah, but this is not the new baseline. So if the next day you don't reach that revenue number, it almost feels like not a failure, but you get what I'm saying, right? So it's like, I'm trying to enjoy things a little bit more at times. But very soon it goes into, okay, now replicate this and do it better. But obviously there's so many moments along the way that actually make it worth it, because I'm not good. Again, I don't want to glorify any of this. It's still 60-70% work. And we chatted about this before, right? Like stuff you actually don't necessarily want to do but have to do. But thank God, at least for me, I have such a fiery vision that those 10-20% that kind of make it all worth it, that I'm happy to do the other labor to just get more of those at times. But yeah, like we did like events at like Renaissance. I don't know if you know Renaissance, one of these recovery spaces at Amsterdam. And when you have 30 people that really kind of understand the vision, the vibe, that do breath work, ice baths, and kind of understand that sleep is a bit more than just this thing you do in the bed. For me, that is super valuable. You get really good feedback. Same with reviews. It warms my heart when I read that people are like, look, this product has really, really, really changed the game for me. Stuff like that is way more powerful for me, at least for my motivation, than any revenue number probably ever will be. Yeah. So those are quite impactful and keep me going as well. Then I can do like, okay, I can work another month and go.
If you stop now, like today, and look back kind of on your journey, what would you say is kind of like your biggest learning so far as a founder?
Everything is people. Everything. You're never. The right people will lift up the whole ship, will work everything down, and the wrong people will slowly sink it. Everything is people. Whatever you do, whatever you think you're doing, it's not data. Even the data you're looking at is behind that are people. It's all people. Like, I think that was the thing that I came to understand probably later than I should have. But the same thing was like, I was a bottleneck, or I am a bottleneck. You can't go alone at one point. You need, to be honest, both human and financial capital, but you need both of it. And it is really important to align people on the vision from the beginning, see whether they're actually, that have the same fiery vision. Because hard skills can be taught, to be honest. But this vision, this drive, you can always feel it in the beginning. And there's always a gut feeling with people. And it's that has unlocked most of the thing. Like, to give you an example, I've been working with this kid called Marcel. He's 21. He just finished his studies. He just loves e-commerce. He loves it. He's in Barcelona. I visited him a couple of times now already. I flew him over to Amsterdam, but he's been working for free for a year and a half. We've only started paying him this month. And he just has this vision, and like, he acts like the brand is his. And it partly is at this point, because he's one of the reasons we could keep it going when the co-founder's kind of leaving, because this kid in Barcelona at 21 is playing around with 60K on Meta ads, just like a month, right? So, and he didn't have the most, no resume, no real skills, but you know what I mean, right? No real thing
like
to
track
go
record,
off. No track record. All he had is like, he was there, and like on the video call, he's like, yeah, I really want this. Like, damn, I want to work with this kid one way or another. And I'm pretty sure he will remain instrumental for the growth in the coming 5 years. And that's what I mean. Like, all the rest, now he's a whiz kid with everything's meta. Yeah. He's a whiz kid with everything growth. But that wasn't there. He could learn that. And I just saw it like this. He will learn this, like, for sure. He's just so fiery. And I think that's the main thing where I used to think like systems, frameworks, optimize, automate. Scratch that. It's people, full stop.
Crazy.
Yeah.
And you also, I mean, you talked about it a little bit before, that you kind of like document the journey. I think content becomes like so integral for like your brand. Like, what do you think, from your own perspective, like what does it take nowadays to kind of build a brand in the e-commerce space in 2025?
If you want an actual brand, an actual vision, like kind of what we're really trying to do, definitely in the lifestyle, health, well-being, it's a lifestyle business, right? So how can you do that without showing the lifestyle? What are you buying into if you don't see the lifestyle, if you don't see that the people that are creating these products are actually doing the things they're saying, they're actually kind of achieving the things they're saying. That's just that makes no sense for me. That's a really big missing piece of the puzzle. If I look at even say AG1, right? Okay, I know who founded it because I obviously did my research, but I don't see this guy like, and I know they're like huge corporate and it's really hard at that point, but still, like I don't see this guy showing me exactly like how does AG1 fit in my lifestyle. Yeah, they'll sponsor Ironman and all that stuff, and I can see what they're trying to do, but it still like lacks a bit. And I think the day and age of faceless brands are over. This is the age of the, as you'll know, the age of the creator. It's the personal brand. Like brands are pivoting towards more personal brands. Even though they sell a product, they're showing you how they're building the company. They're showing you, the ones that do it right at least, they're showing you what goes in, what goes out, what's good, what's bad. So I think that is almost what we're trying to do. Is we're a supplement company if you really boil it down, but we're very much a lifestyle company, and we're almost like we want people to get as involved as possible in what 8 hours was, is, and will be, which is why we put a lot of effort in behind the brand vlogs, showing our own lifestyle. Even myself, don't get me wrong, I love content. I love creating content. I love videography, but it's not easy for me, like influencer gets a bad rap and stuff, and then I need to kind of do this a little bit. But in the beginning, you're like, oh, what are my friends gonna say? My old lawyer friends are definitely looking at this and go like, what? What is this?
He should have stayed.
Yeah, it's like, what? But yeah, you kind of get into it a bit more, and again, at one point, it's like, yeah.
You also realize that no one really cares. Also, like, no one really cares. Like, you do it 10 times, and then people are like, okay, he's on this journey, if they find it weird or not. But like, no one really
no one cares as much as you think about your life.
Yeah.
And the ones that do, mostly in a positive way.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that running your brand as a bit of a personal brand, in the most broad sense of the way, right? A brand that feels personal. It's what I said earlier, like a brand rooted in science but wrapped in emotion. I want to show that emotion. I want to show what goes in, out, struggles, stuff like that. Like, because we put a lot of effort in all these things, and it'd be a shame to not show it.
What sells a lot, of course, is like everything that has to do with numbers, also with like flexing, like with clickbaity titles, clickbaity like thumbnails, which is, I think, sometimes like difficult. I mean, you also talk very openly about your revenue numbers, like, hey, we make 100K a month, and you know, the founder of a 7-8 figure business, and all this kind of like clickbaity things that works, right? Do you think it also creates sometimes like a little bit like a wrong kind of misconception of like how well the brand is doing, because of course you're not showing the full picture, but just like a fraction of it?
1,000,000%. Although I do think we're actually trying to show the full picture if you're looking for it. But as you know, you need to play the algorithm. So the clickbaity title gets the people in, and the idea is get them in with the title, keep them with the value. Because if you then actually look at the video where it says 7-8 figure brand, you'll also notice that it says 7-8 figure costs on the other end of it. And yes, 100K, make 100K a month in revenue, but revenue is vanity and profit is sanity.
Yeah.
And all the guys showing their Shopify dashboards and stuff, I can do that as well. But that's not something you're going to find me doing. And if I show it, I'll show you the other side of the balance that says minus 10K on that month, basically, right? So I think but it's true, right? As you said earlier as well, I think it's a balance we're still trying to strike between what people are used to, clickbait, crazy claims, sleep 10 hours and 2 hours, right? You don't need sleep anymore. Like that type of stuff. How do we marry that with our brand ethos, which is really transparency, really showing the real stuff? And how we're trying to do that these days a bit is like, we still need the clicks, right? In the end. So that's kind of where we go a little bit, sometimes more clickbaity. We're still split testing as well. We're so young in our journey that it's like, okay, how do we get this? But yeah, I think it creates a really wrong message in general, because let's be honest, entrepreneurship is also a bit like the fuzz of this generation. Everybody needs to be an entrepreneur these days, and they all think that is like glorified. Like, don't. Like,
Yeah.
if you don't feel an extremely like, you can't like stop it. You can't stop it. It's always on your mind. If you don't feel that, then don't be an entrepreneur. Like, don't go do this crazy thing. Same with, that's also why I didn't quit my job at Amazon. I did it 1 year both. It's just plain stupid to jump into something without even testing in the market.
Yeah.
Like, there's ways you can do it. And obviously I'm really happy with my choices. Don't get me wrong, but don't glorify that certain lifestyle. If you want to do it for the money, there's a million things that are way better. If you want to do it for passion will get you started, but it won't keep you going. If you want to do it for cloud, do other things. There's way easier ways to get cloud. Like, I don't know. It really needs to be something that you feel is very aligned with certain values. And I like to think about it more in anti-goals than goals. If there's certain things you don't want to give up on, that might be freedom, do your own thing, have a direct finger on the buttons that like impact whatever you're doing. Maybe entrepreneurship is something you can toy with, but even then, do it in small little batches and see where it goes, right? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I think that all-in mentality is really like dangerous. Like, oh, I just quit my job. I you know, like in the end, like also for you, there's so much that you can fall back on, right? I mean, you still have your law degree. I don't know how difficult it would be to pick it up, but probably you could like pick it up and work in law again, right?
Good, yeah.
You work for Amazon, like you worked as an account manager or something like. So you have some experience that you can also fall back, but like this kind of like all in mentality that is sometimes kind of glorified from like just quit, like do your own thing. Like I find it super dangerous because like I mean I had also like kind of like this 3-4 month period where I was still paid from an old employer and then kind of had time to, in a paid environment, to kind of generate sales. And even that period, I think was 4 months that I was paid, was very like little to kind of make it. And then you go through all those like kind of like up and downs of entrepreneurship. And if you don't have the endurance to do that, I find this super dangerous. And that will only lead to you like going into burnout, going into like financial stress, going into physical stress as well. So that's super dangerous. If you look back, if we go all the way back to the picture in the beginning, and your kind of definition of success in the beginning, like how has this changed from how you defined like success from being a lawyer to how you would define success today?
I mean, I'm still working on that definition, if I'm very honest. Like, it is a thing that I think it's not a static thing as well, right? It kind of goes through stages, right? I just turned 30, which also probably has an impact at one point what my success looks like for me. But it's definitely changed from, okay, I want a high status job and a big pay basically, and I want to wear suits to work, which looks like I'm really important, like with my briefcase on the metro or whatever. And like I want to be able to go to a party and say I'm a lawyer. Like, that sounds really, immediately people don't ask questions, they're just like, oh,
I'm not gonna mess with this guy.
Basically. I think it changed from that to what I kind of mentioned with the anti-goal. Like, I figured out that for me, rather than having a goal of a certain number on my bank account or a certain title or cloud, I kind of structured my life around things. Okay, these things, I really don't want to give up on them. So to give you an example, for one of them for me is my health and my performance. Like, kind of like I do a lot of long distance running or a high rocks or gym. I really enjoy that stuff. And as soon as I can't do that stuff anymore, I just noticed that my happiness, I guess, slips, right? That's part of me. So that's why, that's one of the things I don't want to give up on. Another one for me is freedom, but defined in a certain way. Like, I want freedom to of me. Decide if I don't want to work on a Tuesday, then I don't work. You'll never fully decide. I mean, they say like, oh, do your own thing and you get to work where and when you want. Yes, everywhere and all the time. But still, there's a difference where I I feel like I'm at the control of that, right? There's no employer telling me you got to go to the office, or at 11 a.m. No, you can't go to the gym then because that's work time. That really made me uneasy. So that was another one where it's like, okay, I want freedom to kind of, if I want to go work from the other side of the world for a little bit, fine, should be work. And then the third thing for me is I want to feel like I'm the one in the driving seat in whatever I'm doing. In training, if you train more, you get better. Like from everyone from its own level, but right, if you want to run faster, all you got to do is run more at a faster pace. I want to feel the same thing in whatever I'm doing with the rest of my life. And you've been in corporate, right? Sometimes, at least at Amazon, great job, but it felt like I wanted to change a tiny thing on the website, and I had to find 7 guys somewhere in India that could finally do that after 3 months, and I had to jump through 13 hoops.
And 15 legal meetings.
And whatever, and I got to sign off here and there and that. That drained me. Like, while now, if I decide on Tuesday, oh, this might be interesting as a piece of content, throw 1,000 euros behind it to test it. By Friday, we know yes or no. By Monday, it's scaled or killed. And by the next Friday, we've seen a revenue number that's accounted to it. So that feels so good, because I think people, more so than just from working really hard, I think people go into a little bit of like burnout or lose themselves a bit if they don't feel that direct impact. Because we're made as humanity, we're made to do something, hit a thing with a stone, like, oh, there's fire now, right? Like, we're made to see a direct impact that we make on the world and even in our day-to-day lives. So then those 3 things are now my new definition of kind of success. Can I keep my health and my performance in check, where I'm happy with that? Can I feel direct impact of the work I'm doing? And do I have freedom in a sense that I am the one that decides kind of my agenda, of course, regardless of client meetings and stuff. But that is kind of, for me, a new definition of success, I guess. And yeah, still working on letting go of some of my old like things screaming in my head, like, oh yeah, this and that. Because look, money, because I find that one always interesting, right? Like, money is so often seen as like the thing of success. Money is a means. The thing for me right now is I want to, don't get me wrong, I'm not naive on this. I want to make money. I need money. We're raising money. Like, we need money. It's the fuel. But money is a means, not a meaning. You find a way that you can make it, and then you let it go. These days, I look at money like, okay, we want to do, let's just say, we want to develop a new product. It'll cost 200K. Got to find 200K. I couldn't care about that real monetary value. I just care about what I want to do, develop a new product. And money is the mean to get to that. So that is what I let go of a lot, because as a lawyer, it was, how big's your paycheck, right? It's not a mean, because you're not really doing something with it. It's purely status.
Back in the day when you finished or when you quit your job as a lawyer, you said, like, I had to cut off like part of my identity, like my old identity. And previously you said that in one of your videos, but also you said it today, that you became kind of like the bottleneck because the brand kind of became bigger than yourself. Was that also like a big shift and a big thing for you to cut off the maybe ego part of yourself in this process? Or is there any other like big identity that you had to kind of break down and kind of like get rid of as a founder?
Still is. I think that one is one of the major ones. Still is one of the things I'm struggling with, is not trying to do it myself. Even with people, like, we now got designers coming in, for example. We have a scientific board. We have like a lot of people working with us. And often I get in the knee-jerk reaction where it's like, hey, if I would do this myself, it'd be to a really high status. And what I'm sometimes having issues with is, like, definitely with freelancers, nobody's going to care as much as you do. That's just the reality of it. And that's normal. But you are the bottleneck. If you keep jumping in, even though in the beginning you're doing it faster, that is true. But if you don't make that investment of telling them, okay, you guys do it, you guys get the autonomy, you guys get the full, like, you own this, you're never gonna, because I only have 24 hours in a day and I need to sleep 8 because I do not want to end up wherever the hell I was. I want to do training, this and that. I think that was a big issue, and probably that's related to ego as well. Where it's like, oh, I am the one at the bottom, like at the buttons, right? What I told you, the direct impact. Now my direct impact looks slightly different in the sense that I do a bit less of the executive work, like actually execution, and I'm a bit higher up. And even there, I need to let go a little bit, where it's like, okay, we set the guidelines, let them do it. Because very often they're also way better than I am, and I could ever do it. But I just feel like this urge to kind of lean in, jump in, because my baby, like, you know what I mean? Like it's really hard on that part. I think that is what's going really well. My current co-founder is, he's a guy with a lot of experience, had his own company, or still has a headed e-commerce at Nike Strength. So he's used to both sides of that.
Yeah.
And he will literally just call me out of my bullshit these days and go, okay, sit down. This is for them, or this. You're not gonna control this. And yeah, it's just, if you want to grow to an actual
company,
company, category defining thing, which we do, it can't be me. Like, that is just the full thing of it. I never want to let go fully, of course. I never want to become an employee in my own company or just overseeing things. I'm someone that I need oversight. I want to know what's going on, but definitely in streams that make sense. So yeah, fully working on that part, locking off the ego a little bit, but I think I'm on a good path right now.
Nice. Awesome. I think, super interesting conversation. I want to ask, because you said it before, you currently are preparing to raise money. But I'm going to make this a little bit more broader, like what's next for 8 hours, maybe also for yourself. You already said you want to continue with what you're doing. I think we got this part covered, but what's next for 8 hours? Like, what are the next couple of months, years, hopefully, probably more months, look like for your runway?
Yeah, indeed. Because I stopped years ago trying to plan years ahead. That just doesn't work. Definitely.
More months. Look like for your runway.
Yeah, indeed. Because I stopped years ago trying to plan years ahead. That just doesn't work. Definitely at this stage.
More months. Look like for your runway.
Yeah, indeed. Because I stopped years ago trying to plan years ahead. That just doesn't work. Definitely at this stage.
More months. Look like for your runway.
Yeah, indeed. Because I stopped years ago trying to plan years ahead. That just doesn't work. Definitely at this stage.
More months. Look like for your runway.
Yeah, indeed. Because I stopped years ago trying to plan years ahead. That just doesn't work. Definitely at this stage.
More months. Look like for your runway.
Yeah, indeed. Because I stopped years ago trying to plan years ahead. That just
more months. Look like for your runway.
yeah, indeed. Because I stopped years ago trying to plan years ahead. That just
more months. Look like for your runway.
yeah, indeed. Because I stopped years ago trying to plan years ahead. That just
more months. Look like for your runway.
yeah, indeed. Because I stopped years ago trying to plan years ahead. That just
more months. Look like for your runway.
yeah, indeed. Because I stopped years ago trying to plan years ahead. That just
more months. Look like for your runway.
I stopped years ago trying to plan years ahead. That just
more months. Look like for your runway.
I stopped years ago trying
Mm.
tendencies, you know what I mean? I can see that. Maybe it's a plan years ahead that's just
More months look like for your runway?
athletic, probably, but could be hydration, all that stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, indeed. I stopped years ago trying
Mm.
tendencies, you know what I mean? I can see that. Maybe it's a plan years ahead that's just
More months look like for your runway?
athletic, probably, but could be hydration, all that stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, indeed. I stopped years ago.
Mm.
Taking that step back, see that. Take that. Maybe it's
More months look like for your runway?
athletic, probably, but could be hydration, all that stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, indeed. I stopped years ago. Recovery as a culture.
Mm. Mm.
Me taking that step back before I can see that. Maybe it's take that leap forward because
More months look like for your runway?
athletic, probably, but could be hydration, all that stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, indeed. I stopped years ago. Recovery as a culture.
Mm. Mm.
Me take
That's it. Awesome. Like sounds like a big agenda for the upcoming month.
Yes.
That seems almost like the upcoming years. I really enjoyed this conversation. Before we leave off, I always have 3 final questions. I'm also going to ask them to you, of course. The first question is, what are you learning right now that you're not good at?
I'm not good at letting go of perfection.
Okay.
I know it sounds cliche, like, oh, I'm too perfectionist, but I mean more pushing things, testing it in the market rather than like holding on to it and like keep trying to get to the utmost level. My co-founder is helping a lot with that.
Nice.
It's just putting me in the corner and pushing life. So that's
good that you have like an accountability partner.
yes, which was part of the reason why I got him on, basically. So yeah, definitely learning that.
Nice.
Yeah, letting go.
What name would you give this chapter of your life? Accountability partner.
Yes.
Awesome.
Building.
Building. And the last question is, if you could send a SMS to all mobile phones in the world, what would you say?
There's no opportunity, only trade-offs.
There's no opportunity, only trade-offs.
Know what bank you're like taking a loan in on whatever you're doing and be willing to front the cost. That's it.
Nice. Very cool message. Matthias, thank you so much for coming onto the podcast. It was really insightful. I think we went from like your kind of picture of the corporate law to kind of deconstructing your own identity, letting go of a lot of things, which is hard for any founder, for anyone who is building. But I do think that entrepreneurship is like having a mirror 24/7 in front of you. So that's kind of like part of the game. And I think you do like a really good job in kind of managing this, acknowledging it, but also still like driving the company further. And I have no doubt that 8 hours will become an integral part of your product category. If you are a founder, if you are like an investor, you can always reach out to Matthias. And I think you do like a really if you have $1 million laying around, also you know still where to have no doubt put it. And for all the listeners, if you're still watching, of course, please do subscribe to YouTube, follow us on Spotify. I still see that over 80% of people watching this are actually not subscribed. So go hit the subscribe button because it helps growing the show, bringing people like Matthias, awesome entrepreneurs on the show. Go like and subscribe, and we see each other in a new episode of the 301 podcast.